Oddventure wears its inspiration proudly. From the moment it starts, it's clear that the developers have a deep love for Earthbound, also known as Mother 3. The pixel art is striking, the concept is strong, and it feels like a passion project made by fans for fans. But beneath the surface, the game is severely struggling to hold itself together. Despite the fantastic presentation, the game is currently weighed down by a long list of problems, mostly due to it being early access, and it clearly shows, which is not great to see. Before going any further, I would like to make it clear that I have great interest in seeing where Oddventure goes. It is a game that is worth supporting, but as it stands, this has been one of the most frustrating games that I have played recently, where I had to put it down frequently and play something else to calm me down before trying to pick it up again, due to the combat system. It's very slow and worst of all, persistently wrestles control away from the player. You will spend all of your time watching each of the characters skip their turn or sitting through their status effects that lock you out of input completely. You're waiting for a turn that you will never get to see as each character waits for their inevitable death the moment the combat starts up. It has something to do with the mood system, which is tied to whether characters actually want to fight or if they're too depressed or sad. If somebody isn't feeling content or happy, they will refuse to take action permanently. Maybe this is intentional. Maybe it's not working right. Either way, in its current state, it really needs to be looked into. It is a decent mechanic that can be very interesting if it actually works. It turns every fight into a gamble with very few ways to restore mood early on. What makes things even worse is the forced, multiple back-to-back fights that give you zero breathing room. It stops being interesting and really starts to give you a headache seeing how frequently you're thrown into combat without much of a chance of survival or freedom. From what I could gather, you play as a young girl named Charlie, who becomes more disturbed as she grows older, her mind unraveling under the weight of past trauma, pulling her into a surreal, dreamlike world in her sleep, like a twisted version of Alice in Wonderland. Charlie is a very bitter person, emotionally distant, and clearly exhausted by everything around her. She's not here to play nice, and that alone makes for a compelling character, knowing that she has to put up with her annoying little brother that she seems to hate with all of her being. There's weight to it, and the setup invites deeper exploration of mental health and personal grief. I would love to see more. I just cannot stomach another round of frustration. It wore me down before the story ever had a chance to build up its full momentum, and knowing full well that the game is only 50% finished means that even if I did, I would still be met with more frustration. One thing worth pointing out about the story is how it comes and goes without much warning. At times you are pulled out of the dream world to relive Charlie's childhood trauma, but the shift does not feel as smooth as it could be. I feel like introducing this element early on or building into it more gradually would help. As it stands, the suddenness might throw off a lot of players. The presentation is outstanding, even in its unfinished state. The CRT-inspired visuals gives everything a hand-drawn pixelated texture that all works brilliantly. The mixture of dark and wacky humor and story is equally good. It has the kind of atmosphere that resonates with you as a player and also as a person. It's exactly what keeps pulling me back, making it hard to put down, even when I tell myself to wait for the full release. The style, the mood, the strange world, it's clearly being worked on with a lot of passion. Gameplay is pretty standard, guiding your companions, exploring towns, and also dungeons. Once you're in battle, things as previously mentioned start to fall apart. The combat is very slow and repetitive and really drawn out. On top of that, you're barely in control. Characters will refuse to act depending on their mood. The mood system is central to the game, but instead of adding strategy, it mostly creates frustration. Even if somebody is content, they will oftentimes skip their turn. If you're lucky, you can use items like dandelions or smelling salts to fix it, but early on, those are pretty rare and limited to specific creatures that only show up through specific instances. There's also a constant push and pull between being mean and trying to be nice. Charlie can scream at enemies, but that stresses everybody else out, unless they have their ears covered. Being kind improves their mood, but ruins hers and doesn't help too much. You often end up juggling these emotional states in between each fight, instead of sparing the enemy just to have some breathing room, since there is no way to restore your mood outside of consumables and also actions. While it is frustrating, I genuinely like this system where characters are covering their eyes, their ears, their body to block the effects of being flashed by a perverted gnome or being yelled at or even hit. It's a very clever way to incorporate it into gameplay mechanics, even if the context itself feels a little bit inappropriate since the cast appears to be a group of young children in the forest. That aside, the idea of nullifying effects by taking a turn to influence each character adds an interesting layer of strategy. It makes you think ahead and manage the risk in a way that feels both fitting and also meaningful. I want to meet more of the bizarre characters and watch the pieces fall into place in the final version, but right now I cannot help but feel like it's heading down the same road as Earthbound. You know, that once popular and promising title by Pirate Software that has been completely abandoned, always being teased, never being delivered, and stringing people along just enough to stay relevant as poorly as they have been doing it with a negative personality. That kind of approach isn't new. It's the same tactics that you would expect from studios run by ex-Blizzard developers or other corporate-trained minds, where they offer the bare minimum to stay relevant, keep the buzz alive, and hope that the goodwill of fans does not run out. It's very disappointing when you see this kind of practice creeping into projects that clearly start with genuine passion. Early access games are everywhere. Some people avoid them, and it's not hard to see why. Too many titles launch with bare-bones content, just enough to generate attention, but never follow through with any of their updates. Others make it to release only to be missing features, cutting corners, or changing so much that they lose what made them appealing in the first place. Fans are left waiting, hoping that a small team or a solo developer will eventually pull through, in which they oftentimes don't. I really don't want this to happen with this game. It has a very strong premise, plenty of potential, but in its current state, it's not ready. Releasing a demo would have made more sense. It would have set better expectations without asking players to invest in something that isn't complete or polished enough to stand beside other games that have no reason to be in early access when they are fully finished. What could have been a thoughtful system about emotional well-being ends up being a constant roadblock where you are forced to watch each of your characters die time and time again. I do hope that the developer goes back and reworks this main concern because it removes every ounce of fun. Oddventure is a game that clearly is not finished. It has a lot of rough edges, and right now those issues make it very hard to fully enjoy. But there is still something worth holding on to. The visual style is strong, the writing has personality, and it aims to be more than just another quirky RPG. It feels like a modern take on Earthbound, and that is not a bad goal to chase. The systems underneath have potential, but they're being held back by poor mechanics. If the developer can refine the combat, improve resource management, and make the mood system feel more like a tool than a punishment, then the game can grow into something special. Without that one feature working properly, it risks losing players before it ever has the chance to show them what the story, gameplay, or even presentation ever has to offer.